with MakingStarWars.net.
Hey YouTube.com, I'm Jason Ward from MakingStarWars.net, and today I want to talk about this little piece of Taika news about the Taika movie. Recently, we've seen things that, like, there's that pirate show he has is going to deliver a second season like in October. It's just continually been like a really like full slate of things for the guy, where it's been like there's no way it's going to happen in 2023. And if you guys remember at Celebration, I think Kathleen Kennedy misspoke and said we were going to get it and maybe in late 2023. And I think that's completely impossible. It doesn't seem like it's likely at all. And I've seen through the lies of Kathleen Kennedy and her false Disney machine. No, for all but you know, it ain't happening, because here's what Taika has to say. He said this to Screen Rant. That's yet to be seen. I don't know. I'm still writing. I'm still coming up with the ideas and storylining it, and just want to make sure that it feels like a Star Wars film. Because I could say, oh yeah, we'll just write any old thing and set it in space and then put Star Wars up in front. It wouldn't be a Star Wars film without certain elements, and a certain treatment. So I'm just going to make sure that it stays within the wheelhouse. So yeah, so it doesn't even sound like it's close to a rough draft. It sounds like it's still being sort of story outlined. We have a long ways to go, and the only like other little hints we've ever had from it at all have been the two pieces of concept art that they put behind Kathleen Kennedy when she was speaking about it, like at what was it, the Disney investors call probably. And we got like this logo, and some people thinks it looks like Schoolhouse Rocks. I think it's supposed to look like Ben-Hur personally, but who knows. And then this one piece of concept art that looks like something you'd buy from a swap meet, like a big like poster, with where they sell lighters and stuff. So, I have no idea what it's about. No one does. Apparently Taika doesn't either, for the record. But it does, yeah, it looks trippy, but they haven't said anything about what the gist of it is. So I'm not even sure why we should look forward to it beyond the fact that it's Taika. And if you like his other work, then chances are this will be fun. I mean, the episode of Mandalorian he did was great, and obviously his comedy is spot on. So I want it to happen, but we should keep our expectations in check. In 2023 for the Taika movie, I say no way. I was already saying no way, and now I'm like no way, because when we were giving it like maybe it's gonna happen if is it Christy Cairns who's writing it? I think that's her name. I apologize, I blanked on it. But I was like, if she's writing full time and she's on like the fourth draft right now, and then Taika just has to get to it, like maybe it'll happen. But it doesn't sound like that's the case. Hey, Darren, how's it going, dude? Super excited for Kenobi Episode 5. Even more so after Jason knows someone who's seen it and says it should be a hit. Yeah, it should be. But once again, I thought Episode 4 was going to be a hit. I did. I thought people were going to think it was fun because it was classic Kenobi sneaking around, being, super spy and all that kind of stuff. And it seemed to get wailed on the hardest, but it also was the one that maybe stepped out of the conceived story. But we'll see. I do think it's going to be good, though. For the record, I'm loving Kenobi. I like it. I think it's good. I don't think it looks perfect. I don't think the execution is perfect. I'm not all or nothing. It doesn't have to be, 9.5 the entire time, or I'm walking because I'm Jason Ward and I got standards. Like a lot of these cats watch some pretty dumb things. A lot of these guys watch wrestling and they're mad at this. I don't get it, but whatever. It's not a dig on wrestling either. Just, let's be real. Blake says, "Hey, how's it going, Blake? Old man Blake." And hey, Matt. Matt says, "I think Taika is also busy as a cameo inside Ned B. Droid Kenobi." Yeah, that's probably why he hasn't been writing it. He's been walking around in that suit, feeling completely indestructible. But the suit will not write the scripts. Um, Darren says we won't get a movie until 2025. I know. I feel like what's going to happen. Here's my prediction. Most bloggers, YouTubers, writers who cover Star Wars are going to, not in a bad way, but kind of lie to themselves and say, "Oh, May 2024." That's what I think. I think, oh, May 2024 is when it's going to happen. But it won't. It'll be Christmas 2024 at the earliest, is my prediction. And that's me feeling like I am probably being really nice to really being hopeful, but I don't think so. I think the 2025 date is when it's going to happen. If I remember correctly, Christmas of 2024 is an Avatar movie. So why would they do that? That would be stepping on their own toes to some extent, you know? So I hope I'm wrong, though. You know what I mean? This isn't something where I'm like, I want to be right. Like I want to be wrong. I'm hoping that there's some like phantom Star Wars movie that was never announced that we never heard about, and it's just gonna like swoop in and come out. That would be great. But Taika's movie, it will not be that one. Arya says, "How much knowledge do we have about canon and Star Wars overall? I don't even know what type of movie he is making." Laugh out loud. Yeah, the movies are always going to be canon. I don't think they're gonna do anything outside of canon for the big films because it would just be a headache. Like the exposure a movie has, millions of people will see it. So if you did a Star Wars movie outside of canon as a movie, now you have to explain to millions of people every single time why that wasn't canon in comparison to something else. So I see that as just not being on the table. But my I don't know what I'm talking about. I'm just making shit up on this one. But when I see the Ben-Hur logo, I always think of gladiators and slaves. And when I see this, I'm like, my head goes right to, is that weird cube thing like a crazy like arena? And are we gonna have like a gladiator Star Wars movie? And it's gonna be a little bit funny, you know? Is this like a space station where people go to watch fights happen, and and then we're gonna see like by the end of it they revolt and destroy this thing? I mean, is it for rich people and that's why it's in this beautiful nebula or something? I don't know. I mean, that's where my brain goes when I see that kind of stuff. But there hasn't been anything solid. The people I know in like Hollywood circles that are working in the industry and stuff, they have no idea either. So I don't know. I think they did a pitch. Pitch was like probably given the thumbs up, and then they're probably going into the writing process, and probably a handful of people know what it's supposed to be. Probably Cairns, Taika, Kathleen, Rejuan, and a couple of other people in executive positions. And then they will probably start to take those scripts and then look at them from the story group and say like, oh, here's where this is fine, or all of this is fine because it's so outside of everything. Who knows? But I would think at this point, with 6 months to go, there will probably not be a rough draft, most likely in 2022, unless they outline really heavy, unless like outlining for Taika is something that's different than most writers, which it could be. He's also not writing it by himself, but I don't think so. Darren says, Matt, it's definitely Reva's husband inside Ned B. He's like, don't want to pay alimony, me robot. Yeah, and but who knows? Maybe it's called Star Wars Little Tykes. That's about a Taika bike gang, Tykes on bikes. Coco Baggins says, I got a bad feeling about this. Yeah, well, they seem to have a good relationship for what it's worth. Like that's where I think this like really does matter. Like Lucasfilm, it doesn't sound to me like, unless it goes way bad, it sounds like when somebody is brought in to like do their project, they know it's gonna take time, and it's not like you didn't deliver, we're mad at you now, you are out of the wheelhouse, like we don't like you. Like that's why we're always going to hear that like Ryan Johnson stuff has been canceled. Ryan Johnson's thing is probably going to happen one day. It probably is, but I don't know when that will be. But it's probably going to be when realistically when Ryan Johnson really feels like making a Star Wars movie, when he really feels like it's time and his other projects are behind him, and he's like, well, okay, now I'm open. I I I think it will happen because once again they have a good relationship, and Taika Waititi and Ryan Johnson, for instance, are both pretty powerful and pretty in demand directors in the industry, well respected. So I don't think Lucasfilm is like looking to start like burning down bridges with people that are going to have longevity in the industry, who they ultimately are going to want to come back and work on Star Wars someday, or something for them someday, whether it's Star Wars or Willow or whatever it may be in the future. But and it's a little bit different than when it's you know like the guys who were doing the Solo movie, the Lego guys. They clearly just didn't work in that system, so I doubt they would be asked back. It would be great if they were. It would be cool. I think Solo probably would have been a better movie with them. Salvador says, totally agree. How can the movie be finished if the script is not complete? Keke said the movies are going to be in the sequel or post-sequel era. When you look at like the full extent of that interview, I'm not convinced she was explicitly saying that. They asked her, "Are you afraid to continue the Skywalker stock? Are you afraid?" And she's like, "No, we're not afraid to do that at all. In fact, there are stories going forward in that era." Um, so it didn't necessarily mean this was set then. But I will say, if they let's just pretend, let's work on it's probably a fallacy, but let's pretend that they are doing a gladiator Star Wars movie in an arena for rich people, and then it's about how they fight for entertainment and then revolt and win their freedom. Okay, let's pretend that's the story. Well, that story could be 5,000 years before A New Hope. It could be set during Episode 9. It could be 5 years. It could be literally at any point. So if we look at what Lucasfilm has going on in the bigger picture, if there is no reason to set something in a particular era, the sequel trilogy era would be probably preferential to them, because you have like parks, theme parks with that stuff set in that era. And you also have toy molds to make first order stormtrooper helmets and so on, set in that era. Like there's all of these little tiny things that can be redone, kit bashed, props reused, recycled, or whatever. You know what I mean? They got that stuff down after doing 3 movies of it. So that's kind of where my head goes. If any of that tends to like line up in can, I think that's what they would, if they were to push at all. But at the end of the day, like when it's somebody like Taika, he might just be like, oh, I always wanted to do, original stormtroopers, and then they're just like, okay. it might go that way, but I'm obviously speculating. No way, Jose. He says everybody's been waiting to say that, haven't they? Darren says, I would love a movie discovering the origins of the Jedi and going back to Mount Tantus, or is it Tantus? Yeah, that kind of stuff. Like I'm always like cool with it. I'm cool with the concept of, if they're ever going to do it, I'd be like, okay. Part of it kind of is like a little bit scary at the same time, because that's one of those things where if you touch it, if you say this is the origin of the Jedi, it's not that good. Well, now the origin of the Jedi story, just not that good. And obviously, I don't think these studios set out to make bad movies usually, but doesn't mean it will be good. you know. But that says, is there any truth to the Riva show rumors? To the best of my knowledge, I have no idea. Like I said, a week before that came about, I said she would survive now, and that it was because of Kenobi 2 opportunities and extrapolating upon the characters and stories who survived this tale. And then that pops up. I'm not throwing shade on that rumor. I don't know who started it. I don't know where it comes from. So is it coincidental that I say one thing, but what I believe what I said to be true? So is that just grifting off of what I said, or is it because it's true and it's two things popping up at the same time? I can't say because I don't know anything about it. I didn't read it, and I don't believe for a second that there is any truth to that aspect of it, though. Will Riva's story continue during the dark times? Yes. That I believe was it implied in my story. I believe that is going to happen. But I have no reason to think that it's going to go into a Riva series. In fact, it sounds a bit clickbaity at this point. But should they do it? If they did, I wouldn't mind. I think however they want to take that story, because I mean, like when the story is done, I mean, I'm of the opinion, and this is just an opinion, that Riva will not be an Inquisitor. I mean, she tried to murder her boss and failed, right? Like we know this. So you try to murder your boss and you fail, you don't get to go back to work. And then we know like what happened to. We know that she doesn't succeed in what she wants to do. Kenobi's alive, the kids are alive, so it's very obvious that she's going to end up in a different place, and that could be a fascinating story. Like Asajj Ventress was somebody who was a Sith acolyte and then basically becomes a bounty hunter. It goes into this completely different line of work and different life at the end of it, and like I debunked that rumor going on yesterday that Riva is Roken's wife. That is not the case either. Not in this story, as far as I know. But I would throw it out there that it maybe that will be a big twist in a future story. Maybe that's where it will go, but not in this one, to the best of my knowledge. Mace Windu is in Ned B, says Dale. Pretty sure it's Taika because this script ain't getting written. So I think it's Taika. Darren says somehow Wade returned and he's in Ned B. Oh yeah, what happened was Ned B gets struck by lightning, and then all of a sudden Wade's in there. And they're like, Wade, what are you doing? There's I don't know what happened to me. Hey, how's it going, Dom? I like it as well. Not perfect, but fun. And my kids like it. About Kenobi, my kids are liking it a lot too. My general family members, I'm like, hey, did you watch it? They know not to like bake me out and tell me my kids. My kids don't bake me out. They don't care. But like my rest of my family, they know. I'm like, I want to know what somebody who's outside of the Star Wars grind thinks. And they're all, oh yeah, it's fun. It's good. It's good. I feel so bad for him. Baymax says, sup. What are you trying to say, man? How's it going, dude? Coco says, Jason, what is the deal with these 30-minute shows? Surely they have enough material to make full hour episode, right? I think it probably. I mean, obviously they could have made Kenobi 3 episodes in an hour each. I mean, they could have done that, but I think it has more to do with. I'm gonna guess. Okay, I'm gonna go out on a limb here, but TV writing is pretty much kind of like you hit these certain page limits and marks and stuff like that. And so it might be TV culture really just kind of encroaching on this. Like, you aim to tell a story efficiently in this amount of time, which is about, and they're not 30-minute shows for the record. They're not. These are like 45-minute shows. But that last one was a little bit shorter, and the next one will be short as well, from what I understand. I hope I'm wrong about that, but I heard it was short. It was a feeling though. I was like, as long as it was really action packed, but it was short. So that said, yeah, I think we're in a place where they would start to make little movies instead, but theatrical movies will be returning. So I also think that you kind of like want there to be a division in the vibe of that. Like you want there to be a 1 hour or 45-minute shows, which they'll call 1 hour, especially when Disney Plus probably starts putting commercials in. They'll be an hour again. But they're going to start to put they're going to have those 2.5 hour movies coming out. So you're going to want them to feel like, oh, I need to go to the theater to see that, and this is where I get my short form Star Wars serialized. But that is the other thing about it, is Star Wars is ultimately serialized, and when you break those acts up, it's not like one act in a Star Wars movie is an hour. It's just not. It just doesn't go that way. So yeah. And thank you, Neil, for the super chat. Neil says, thanks for the update. Hope you enjoy the rest of your weekend. Hey, thanks, man. I appreciate the support, dude. It means a lot. And then, all right. So did I just see Ruin Johnson? Are people still doing that? Or are my eyes failing me? For whatever reason, I haven't wanted to wear my glasses. I don't know. I'm just like pissed at my glasses. I like look at my, I want to wear you. But Blake says, are we supposed to get Vader next episode invading Jabim? Yeah, I think you spelled it right. Yeah, you spelled it right. And it's Jabim. With Inquisitors next episode. Can't remember what the word on that is. Yeah, that's the gist of it is they go back, and then they know that I don't know how they figure out that they're being tracked. Maybe it's the big ass fucking red eye on Lola. I don't know, but they end up figuring it out, and then there's sort of like a call to arms moment, and everybody starts getting ready, and then I'm gonna guess it's an evacuation, as much as anything, and I think it might be in this one that we learn that they're the partisans, and then we kind of see like, oh, okay, oh, these are some of Saw Gerrera's people before they get radicalized. Believe that's what happens in this one, and then we have like the big fight. And with this stuff, like most of the stuff that I heard about it was just like, big fight, lots of people getting ready for combat and that kind of jazz. So expect that, but it's gonna have a big fight. So this is the big battle. So, and to the best of my knowledge, no Grand Inquisitor in this one. Maybe he wakes up in this one. I don't know. It would probably be a good time to have him wake up in at some point. But and I imagine Darth Vader is going to be a big part of this. I still think I don't really know what to make of this. I was hoping that something would happen to like make this make more sense, but nothing has happened. I just keep hearing that the final duel is going to take place on a moon of Mustafar, and that's what they were calling it, moon of Mustafar, and it's like, another kind of like rocky. It's like a rocky kind of setting, and so I'm not sure if there's another moon on Mustafar we never heard of that we're going to learn about. But when you like look at like galactic map stuff, nothing there. But they could just, if that is where it goes, they could just justify it by going, oh yeah, it's secret. It's not in the star charts. You wouldn't know. Isn't that what they always do? But Blake says, also can't wait to see what Taika does with Star Wars. He's one of my favorite filmmakers right now. Yeah, me too. Me too. I hope like his the quality of his work stays where it's at. I hope he doesn't burn himself out and start just becoming average, because he's well above average. And I'm glad that he has a Star Wars movie. I also am glad, for what it's worth. I mean, while it's disappointing to not have a Star Wars movie coming tomorrow, I would rather it take 5 years to make than to come out and ultimately be just a piece of trash or forgettable, or it to come out and have a fun weekend and then, well, that was that, and then we just move on with it and forget about it. So his work on The Mandalorian was good, but as people can see, just because you like something one time, or the one thing that they did with Star Wars doesn't mean it will continue. It's kind of rare when somebody continues to deliver with Star Wars once they start it, once they think they have it down or know it or whatever. Sometimes the general audience will disagree. Rick Jones says, I predict Taika leaves the project due to creative differences. The one thing I would say probably against that I would think would be against that, is he has a pretty good relationship with Disney. And so I think there's a lot of power that's going to come with that, with them, and goodwill. Power and goodwill. And so, he's probably not going to be working on something else for Disney. If Disney's like, you're working on our Star Wars thing, they're probably not going to give him something else, I wouldn't think, unless they want to pull him off Star Wars for something else, which I don't think would be in their best interest. I wouldn't think anyhow. So, I don't know. That's a pretty big thing to leave. Like the Game of Thrones guys, those guys left. They were super hot when they left, and they were getting $100 million to go. So it's like, I don't think anybody holds that against them. I do wonder if they will ever return, though, because they have actually said kind things about them in the aftermath of that. Whereas like you don't ever really hear them talk about the other people who they had like big differences with, and maybe that's just out of respect for them too, because it's got to suck. I mean, leaving a Star Wars project is pretty huge. Like everybody, it's like getting fired or quitting, depending on your point of view, but everybody hears about it. It already sucks just doing that in general, but doing that at the Star Wars level, it's got to be shitty. New Covert says, I would be cool if this movie was made trying to put the galaxy together after the First Order War. Yeah. It's weird because like I wouldn't mind seeing something like that, or some kind of story like about the aftermath. But that concept art, was it saying anything at all? I mean, the concept art could just be a red herring. He might have said like it might have just been a color exploration for all we know. It's that stuff is so early, and when they don't even have a rough draft, we know that the concept art is mostly blue sky. Arya says, by this rate, it will take over 10 years for a new trilogy. The fact that we might get a movie in 2025 is so sad. Yeah, well, it does sound like they are moving away from the trilogy concept, Arya, in general, which I am happy about. That's been my perspective about it the whole time. Like the sequel trilogy, there shouldn't have been a limit. It shouldn't have been called the trilogy. It should have been the sequel story or the sequel saga, and then they should have just moved and made it as many movies as it needed to be to like successfully tell that story and take us on that ride. Because like that's one of the things. If things were allowed to breathe and they weren't rushed, we would have had a better Finn story. We would have had a better Rey story. In the end, things like Palpatine coming back could have been, it could have been sort of summoned in an episode and part of like it could have been a reason that it happened in the films. Like they could have caused it, that kind of stuff. And when you're stuck in that trilogy format, it just doesn't work. Like, can you imagine if they were trying to do the Marvel films as trilogies? It wouldn't work. And so I think what they're doing now is I think they're moving more into they're dropping that, because it just doesn't really pertain. And it doesn't pertain to Star Wars since 1999, when it wasn't really a trilogy anymore. Once we had 4 Star Wars movies, that whole concept was just done. And I really think that it's in a really weird way. Lucas just decided to market Star Wars as a trilogy, like the sound of the word, marketed as that, and then it had such a cultural impact. It became like, this is how you make movies. When in reality, clusters of 3 movies, the only movie that's still the only story that's still a trilogy out of everything from the 80s is Back to the Future. That's the only trilogy left standing that I could think of, anyways. So, yeah, Keep making the movies, I say, and wrap the stories up, and then launch new characters in there and just keep it going. I think that's what they're hoping for. That's what the Game of Thrones guys were going to do. They were getting 2 movies, and it was just going to keep going from there if the movies were landing. So it was like going to be like 1 movie, and if it was really good, there would obviously be 2 more. But if it wasn't that big, they were going to get the second movie to wrap it up. Why is Rian Johnson allowed to create another Star Wars movie after the massive backlash of his horrible work? Well, the work wasn't horrible. I don't think the work was horrible at all. Personally, I don't think Lucasfilm thinks that. The movie made money. Like, this is one of the things. And backlash. I mean, backlash because of a bunch of guys got triggered by women in Star Wars is not really something that they're going to cater to either, or they're going to cave to. So I should say. So yeah, I don't think he did bad work. To be honest with you, I think it's pretty good. In fact, I think it's one of the more solid directed Star Wars offerings that we have, in my opinion. Kevin says Ruin Johnson doesn't have my respect, but he has the respect of Hollywood, and he's making a fuck ton of money for investors in Hollywood, and his movies deliver consistently. At the end of the day, that's what matters. Like, just like yesterday, I was talking about, everyone's like, oh, what are they going to do to Deborah after this Kenobi stuff? The Kenobi shit's delivering. You know, you got to get out of this little like view of fandom and sort of, oh, my ride's here. Like crosstalk that makes people think one thing is true when it's just clearly not. Money is what ultimately matters here. If Ryan's movie didn't make money, he'd be out. His movie did. And in fact, I'm even going to throw it out there that when Ryan comes back and the old shit kickers who try to get the backlash going, just going to make more probably help it get more exposure. It's probably going to help it. If Ryan was the worst Star Wars movie maker of all time and he made another movie, people would groan and then no one would pay attention. So when he goes to make his movies, if people pay attention, then I think it says something. But that's just me. Bill Miller says, I just watched Our Flag Means Death and Taika is cool. Give him time. Yeah, I agree. I agree. Also, last podcast on the left just did a whole 3-part series on Blackbeard, and it goes into the relationships of those guys, the real relationship. So if you really dug it and you like pirates and you like good podcasts, I would check that out. If you haven't heard it, it's pretty good. Will you post the leaks for Andor? If I get leaks for Andor. Andor was a pretty tight ship on that one, I gotta say. So, and it's already filmed, so I'm not expecting there to be a lot from Andor, to be honest with you. But you never know. Sometimes, just when you think you're out, a magical source just lands in your lap. Mike says, hey guys, Jason, thank you for the Saturday show. Hey, thanks, Mike. Hope you're having a good weekend, dude. Lonely Lizard, hey Jason, when in June does Star Wars Skeleton Crew start filming, or is it already filming? Yeah, Skeleton Crew is prepping as far as I know. And so what the first film date is, it's probably going to be a Monday. Usually it's Monday on these things. But yeah, and somebody was asking what it was about as well, but we'll get to that in a second. Do you think they would really bring Rian Johnson back though after the massive backlash? Yeah, because the massive backlash was mostly a manufactured YouTube thing. It really didn't reflect reality, and it didn't reflect the financials. That's the one of the things about it. And a lot of people read those numbers about the financials really, really wrong on purpose and made it sound like, oh, it did good, solid money. At the end of the day, it was within their projections, and it was the 3rd Star Wars movie in a row, and it did well. So, luckily for him, it wasn't the solo film, Kevin says, so Vader doesn't kill Reva in the last episode. To the best of my knowledge, that has been removed, cut, does not happen now. That was her original ending, and it is no longer it. Yanti says, I'm thinking Taika's early days of the Jedi film, the logo has a very Land of the Lost vibe, and the production image has serious Mortis vibes. Yeah, it does. It does have like Mortis vibes for sure. But I mean, this is what I hold on. This is what I always show right here. Let me get this. I need to keep this image right here on hand. So every time we have this conversation, I'm just like ready to like bring it up, basically. So hold on one second. I think I'm gonna have to screenshot the image because everything is stupid. But here, we get this right here going. Here, get that screenshot, and then I'll drop it into this to show you. No, it's really, I hate trying to use the trackpad on a Mac. Not my favorite thing, you guys. Sorry to keep you waiting, but here we go. I mean, look at that. I mean, I kind of cut it off a little bit, but see how the Ben-Hur logo is? That's Ben-Hur. Looks like I covered up the original image, but that Star Wars logo is, in my opinion, it's a tribute to the old Ben-Hur logo. So that's where my head keeps going, but I might be too transfixed on that for what it's worth. So, am I the only one wanting to go into the future after episode 9? I'm so tired of going back in time. Yeah, I'm not against going into the future, especially because Star Wars is essentially a story of continual societal collapse. Like, going into the future of Star Wars doesn't mean it's going to be more futuristic ever. I mean, you could have like, you're just going to have like golden ages, like Naboo Starfighter kind of Art Nouveau inspired looking times, and then you will collapse into ruin. And it's a cycle in Star Wars that's never going to end, because if it was called Star Wars Peacetime, that would be boring. So, hey everyone, where's Rob? Oh, I let Rob have the old day off. I wasn't gonna say, hey Rob, come on your weekend right now. Let Rob recharge his old batteries. If he ended up in chat, I would have sent him the invite though. Hey Van, it's your birthday. Happy birthday, dude. Thanks for all the work. You know what I want? David Harbour as Dash Rendar. Not too much to ask, right? Anything new on Ezra or Thrawn? Pierce Brosnan? Nothing new on Thrawn at all. So once again, don't know what that means. It might just mean that Thrawn is, just stuff just didn't leak. But what is Skeleton Crew about? Skeleton Crew is going to be based on the old Spielberg Amblin era of filmmaking, where you have lots of flashlights and lights and fog, and you're going to have a group of kids, but the kids are capable and a cohesive group. Think Stranger Things if you haven't watched, like, E.T. and Goonies, but E.T., Goonies, Stranger Things, that kind of a vibe is what it's going to be. And Jude Law, I assume, is going to play the captain of a ship, and they're going to somehow get back into space, probably, and those kids are going to become the crew of the ship, and it's probably an unlikely crew, and but it's just crazy enough it just might work. But the casting for the Jude Law character said 1 season. They would only be needed for 1 season. Maybe they cast Jude Law and then they're like, you know what, now you live and you continue on. Or maybe Jude Law got the role because he's like, you know what, I'll do 1 year of Star Wars and then die and then not have to do it ever again. That sounds great. So but just throwing out what those possibilities are. But yeah, but they're basically lost in space trying to get home. So yeah, someone said Ruin Johnson. That's so dumb. And Skeleton Crew, Stranger Things, and Star Wars. Yeah. It's Amblin. It's Amblin. A bunch of kids at the Gub Screw. What's his name leading him? Yeah, Jude Law. All right. Are we going to see Vader's Devastator? I don't think so. I've not heard anything about the old Devastator, honestly. Hey, Patrick. Neil says, when we see small discrepancies, like not seeing Mustafar behind Inquisitor HQ as in Fallen Order, what do you chalk that up to? Money? I'm fascinated by how these small choices get made. I think it was just like a visual. I think it was a visual choice, because that's not really expensive, especially like when you get down to the fact that, like, you know globes and things like that, not a hard shot, not the most difficult shot. So I'm just gonna guess that they didn't want it to look that way. They didn't want that feeling or vibe for it, and then they will simply explain it by the fact that it during a certain moon cycle, that's how it works. But I'm also hearing, and like I said, it might be wrong, but I keep hearing that the end duel is on the moon of Mustafar. So maybe there's going to be another moon. Maybe we'll see that moon show up. Maybe it will come into frame, and then and that's where they'll fight. I don't know though. My real question is, this is Arya's real question. We have not gotten a Rey show about her life or anything Rey related. Yeah, yeah. I think I think we will though. Personally, I mean, I wish Daisy Ridley the best. I don't want her to have like a bad career. I'm sure a part of her is just like coming down from the whole Star Wars thing. But most people don't leave. Mark Hamill didn't leave the original trilogy, well received trilogy of films, and get a live action movie star career. Harrison Ford did, and Hayden Christensen didn't leave the prequels to go on to be a huge movie star. He was acting, doing movies, but towards the back end of it, before he came back, he was doing like Nicolas Cage, pay the rent movies. So and I'm not, no shade on that or anything like that. Like, it's work, but Star Wars, you tend to get known as being this one thing. So the idea, for instance, that like she wouldn't come back to Star Wars, that would mean Daisy was a very stubborn person who was just like, no, my pride is too much. I will not do that. Not until I am a big movie star. And it just seems unlikely. Her acting, her acting chops are fine. They're not exceptional, and she's known for Star Wars. So I think her future is probably coming back to Star Wars. I think if they had started making Disney Plus Star Wars shows in the 90s, Mark Hamill most likely would have been back as Luke Skywalker in those shows and would have gladly done it. And I think the same thing will be true of Daisy Ridley. And I like Daisy a lot. Don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to like slight them. I'm just trying to be objective and really look at it. So I would imagine we will see something with her when the time is right. But I think they're also letting that breathe a little bit and rest. Hey, Auntie, do you think the success of Top Gun Maverick might motivate Disney to get Lucasfilm to push up production feed off of its success, or could it kill their project altogether? Well, that's kind of where I go with it. That's what I mean. Okay, and you go on to say, since Maverick delivered a lot of Jaken's promises of feeling like you're in the cockpit of a fighter. Yeah, that's where I'm a bit like about it, because Top Gun is able to take the actors up in the real jets and put the real G-forces on their faces, and then step away and go, look, it looked real because it was. And they can't really do that with an X-Wing. Like, I don't know. I don't know if I mean, at the end of the day, could they take the people, put them into a jet, and then CGI everything of the jet out and make it the X-Wing cockpit and make it like work? I guess they could. Maybe that's what they were planning on doing. I don't know. But it's also one of those things that's kind of strange too. Like, all of a sudden now we're seeing G-forces on pilots' faces in Star Wars when we haven't seen that, for 9 films. Not saying I'm against it, you know, or that they can't come up with a reason to like do it, but I also don't really think that the success of Top Gun really can be copied or pilfered in any way. I don't think like Iron Eagle, the remake, could come out right now and start making money because Top Gun did. It seems like it's so outside of everything, at least to me. So Steve says The Last Jedi was racist. Look at what Rian Johnson did to Finn. No Jedi arc for Finn. That's not racist though. That's completing his arc as a stormtrooper, you know. And I would say, if you want it, I don't think it's racist at all, but I would say JJ took that away. JJ took the saber out of Finn's hand and put it in Rey's. Finn was just using it as a sword. JJ never ever showed anything with the Force with Finn whatsoever at all. So, you know, is what it is. Justin Westwood says, to balance it out a bit, here, The Last Jedi is one of my top 3-ish pieces of Star Wars content. So yeah, I think it's a really good directed film. But people think that story choices that they disagree with equates to bad directing because they don't know what directing is. That's the only thing I can think of to make this make sense. But Dell says, I can't wait for Rian Johnson's trilogy. I hope he writes it all and follows through no matter the backlash. Yeah, and that is, I mean, at the end of the day, most people wouldn't have a problem if it had just been JJ's trilogy or if it had just been Ryan's trilogy. But the whole idea of like those guys like handing off, well, the problem is the handoff handed back off to the first guy. That was the big mistake. That was where the whole thing broke. That was, to me, the critical error. Had it gone on to someone like Trevorrow or somebody else like him who continued on and had just taken everything that came before and did what was best for the trilogy. But the truth is, I think JJ did what was best for his creative ego, not what was best for the trilogy. Sorry. I'm just seeing this now. Listen, sorry. I'm about to wrap up though, but I'm always down to hang out though. I'll send you an invite next time for sure. Give me a Palpatine show with Matt Smith and have Matt Smith play him, showing how he was raised and what led him to become the galaxy's most evil Sith Lord. I'd pay to see that. Yeah, I know it's a weird one though if you do Palpatine, because he's ultimately like it would be like, if you think about it, if you overthink it anyways, it would be like doing, here's a biography of Hitler. Let's sympathize with him or try to understand him. It's like, you know, that's like I think the Darth Vader thing was like the closest that they could get to it, but I still wouldn't mind if they did a show like that. And once again, the fans wouldn't be able to like take it. They'd be like, I signed up to watch Palpatine. But what you'd have to have, I think, is somebody else who grows up with Palpatine, who Palpatine has to have had someone who was close to him, like, or a best friend or something, you know what I mean? And like, so telling that story through that person, then ultimately, obviously, they would perish or pay the price for being close to the sociopath, you know, something like that. I would love to see it though. I would not mind if they did a really, really, I don't know, costume drama kind of version of that, you know. Lord Tasman says they should have JJ direct episodes of that show since he is so influenced by 80s Amblin. I know, right? Like that is one of the things he would be really, really good at. But for what it's worth, Kathleen Kennedy produced the 80s era of Amblin films with Spielberg. So I think, believe it or not, Kathleen Kennedy is probably going to be a really great asset on getting that vibe like down. Patrick says, been trying to get my 6-year-old into Star Wars for a few years and nothing. Cue Fortnite Star Wars mode and showing him in the Darth Vader scene from Rogue One, and we have a new fan. Crazy. I took a game to get him interested. Yeah, you just never know what it's going to be. And for like my son, I don't know what it was, but he was like in this like little phase, and he was around 3 years old, and I bought him the Incredible Hulk, and he saw the Incredible Hulk, and he was just like, "Whoa!" All he wanted to watch was Incredible Hulk movies. So I just like got him like big Incredible Hulk dolls. I was like, "Hey, you love this stuff, man. This is for you. You take it, you know." And then I'm watching Star Wars, and then he sees a moment in one of the Star Wars movies where Darth Vader goes Incredible Hulk. And after that, he was just like everything. Incredible Hulk was forgotten, and Darth Vader became everything. And yeah, it's weird though. Like I have friends who are like, my kid doesn't really like Star Wars, man. I want to like, you know, have fun. I want to watch Star Wars with my kid and make it a thing that we do, and it doesn't work. And it's like, I feel bad for them because I do have that with my son. But at the same time, every now and then I'll like do the show for like 2 hours. Son comes home, and then he just wants to talk about Star Wars constantly. And I'm like, can we talk about the Hulk? You know what I mean? Like, can I have one little break? And the answer is nope. But that's great though. That's rad. And by the way, I'm obsessed with getting Darth Vader in Fortnite right now. I had to I was playing, I woke up, got on for a few minutes, and Chris sent me the that article that we did the show about, and I was like, all right, I should probably jump on and do something a little bit more productive than just play Fortnite all day. But it is my day off, so I am going to do that. Wait. Oh yeah, the Darth Vader stream from Rogue. Okay, yeah. It's a good one. All right, says, I hope we see Star Destroyers around Jabeam and a ton of Stormtroopers land with Inquisitors. This is the chance Deborah has to show us love for action scenes. It is one of the main, you know, it is like the main battle of the series. But so far the scale of things has been very much muted. So don't expect it to be big, and then hope it's bigger than you thought. That's what she said. Yancey says, Lord, I was talking about Jenkins' Rogue Squadron film. Sorry for the script. No, I know what you meant. I know what you meant. Yeah. All right. If we get a good writer and director for a ratio, the whole thing will become a massive hit. Yeah. I mean, I ultimately think that if they should work on resurrecting Ben Solo. I mean, I do think it would be a good story. I do think it would be fascinating. And like I always say, I'm a fan of that. Things got to balance out. Like you resurrect Ben, you bring back a new evil or an old evil or something else. Like you know, or it gives, or she does that, and then it does what the Force did for Anakin. Like when Sidious and Plagueis are doing all their little Force magics, and then Anakin's born because of that. Be kind of interesting if we had that inverted. So yeah. But making John Boyega a stormtrooper seems racist. They didn't make John Boyega. That right there is a talking point that people really jump on to like to make hot takes, Chris. When you open the film, is John Boyega a janitor? Is he cleaning shit and piss off the floor? No. He's in Captain Phasma's regiment. He's become a top stormtrooper. So at one point in his career, was he on latrine duty? Was that his gig? Yes. Is it pretty common for people in the military to do disgusting things like that while they're rising up the ranks? Yes. The idea behind it, when you watch the movie, is very clear. He's not a janitor. He's one of Captain Phasma's elite. Like, that's the gang she takes with her down to the surface. That's not a janitor. They don't take janitors with them. Those stormtroopers were brutal. They were dead on. But I think the idea is this is his first time. He has risen up the ranks, and now this is his first time with these guys, and like kill these people. And he's like, I can't do it. So he goes from nothing to something, and then rejects it. That's not racist. That's not, in fact, it's in a weird way, it says how capable the guy is. It's actually kind of good character building. But Everyone only remembers the last thing they saw, and they don't take the whole big picture into account, the fact that we've already seen him as an elite stormtrooper. That's my take anyway, Chris. The Old Republic says Rey Skywalker is a worthless character and a product of terrible planning from both JJ and Johnson. Hope a ratio never sees the light of day. The singles for Finn and Poe. Never recast them. Well, the thing about it is if you didn't like what came before, doing something else and do something more might be a chance for redemption for them. Like, I never thought Boba Fett was particularly that important of a character in terms of, do we need Boba Fett? No. Does he look cool? Yeah. Then we got the Mandalorian, and I was like, well, I don't even need, Din. That's a better version. I don't really actually even need Boba Fett anymore. Was sort of a perspective I held for a while. But then I thought to myself, and I've always said this, like, Boba's story has never really been told or made important. That show was the opportunity to do it. Now, did that show do it? I don't think it did. Personally, I don't think it did. But was it the opportunity to? It definitely was. Salvador says The Last Jedi is brilliant. I agree with you there. Darren says, and it's okay if you guys disagree. I don't think, like, we all have to like the same stuff. There's a lot of stuff that we like, common ground that we could find with Star Wars, that we don't all have to like the same movie or the same characters, the same stuff. Completely fine with me. Darren says the big problem ultimately with sequels, in my opinion, was there was no plan, no direction, and fans were led to believe there was direction from the start. Then after Daisy and John went in the interview, shot that all down. See, the thing about it was it's a bit of yes and a bit of no. It's a bit grayer than that black or white scenario of there was a plan, there wasn't a plan. There were plans. She's a Kenobi. She's a Palpatine. She's a Solo. She's nobody. All of these things were laid out, and with the implications, they were well aware of it. The differences were like, what's it going to be? Ryan went with, let's say she's nobody. Let's have her be nobody. And then JJ's all, oh, it's a great fake out. She's nobody, but then she's a Palpatine. And the Palpatine one was just always JJ's favorite of those. You could even look back to, I believe it was Anthony Bresnikan, who was doing a ton of JJ interviews and stuff at the time, and goes and like hints, I'm hearing that the Kenobi arc is where they want to go. And he didn't just pull that out of his ass. You know what I mean? Like, that was definitely like a thing. But that's why when people ask that, they're like, well, there was no plan. No, they had plans. They just always knew what the set, how you move those bricks around and what the Lego monster makes, But at the end of the day, in my opinion, Ryan made the choice he picked, and then JJ came back and just unpicked, and it made a lot of redundancies in the trilogy. I feel like JJ doing that, he hurt himself just as much as he hurt Ryan, because the end product was not all it could have been. Allison says Rey is her favorite character. So yeah, see, like, everybody loves different things, I mean, like, me personally, I like Wade because there's so much depth to Wade, his presence, he might be that lady's boyfriend. He might not be, he might have lived a good life. He might not have. Like, we just don't really know. Salvador says, I love your analysis. That's why I love you so much, bro. Oh, thank you, Salvador. Yeah. And like, and once again, it's just my opinion. So if people don't agree with them, they don't have to get mad at me or anything like that. And, I just kind of want our community to be like, people like the sequel trilogy. Some people don't. Some people like the prequel. Some people don't. And we go, oh, okay, Arya likes Transformers or likes Michael Bay. And I personally don't, but that's cool. I'm glad that Arya enjoys that. Arya says, out of the new trilogy, the only good thing we got was Rey, Kylo, and the First Order, Final Order. The uniforms are incredible. Yeah, that's one of the things about Star Wars in general. The designs are always, I mean, even people who don't like the prequels are crazy if they're like, those designs are bad. The designs in Star Wars are fantastic. And that's like ultimately kind of what's neat about Star Wars, is like, you could take those things and just tell another story that is more, palatable to a certain fan using that stuff. Like for instance, there's people who hate Attack of the Clones, but then look at Mandalorian, and you look at like Attack of the Clones gives a lot to the Mandalorian. You know, emotional evolution. Nothing will probably ever change your mind at the Old Republic, but I love to see Rey, Poe, and Finn stories all fleshed. Oh, at the Old Republic, but I love to see Rey, Poe fleshed out. Yeah, that's what I like. That's my take. Like, if you didn't like it, but they tell more, maybe you're gonna like this next phase. Maybe the story of Rey and Finn starting the Jedi Order is the tale that you want or that you will like. So Taika has the in call to direct, forgets to I don't know. Okay. King Chris says, how possible is it that Taika's project will actually involve Rey and various characters from the sequel trilogy? If not likely, why even mention revisiting that time with the project? Yeah, I think they were inferring that they would tell stories then, not that they are, not that it is set there. I don't really think we actually know anything about the Taika project other than those two pieces of concept art and that he's doing it and who his co-writer is. Arya likes Tor Valum. Arya loves Tor Valum, but what does she think about Chancellor Valorum? Because I think Tor Valum is Chancellor Valorum's alternate identity. Violet says, "Will the flashback be in episode 5? It will. This next episode is going to be the Anakin Obi-Wan training flashback with lightsabers." Arya, why do you hate Michael Bay? Like I said, I don't hate Michael Bay. I just have never connected with anything he's done. And like I had a okay time watching the first Transformers movie, and that's probably the extent of it for me. Yeah, it's just not for me, you know. The ILM work, though, we can both agree is brilliant. Luke says, just don't bring back Chris Terrio for Star Wars. I like JJ's style, but Terrio wasn't the best choice for 9. Yeah, Terrio was an interesting choice, I gotta say, from like all of the writers that they were going with on the sequel trilogy, like the pedigree of like Michael Arndt and Kasdan, and I know some of the other people who they talked to but didn't get. And it's like then they went with Chris Terrio. I gotta think Chris Terrio and JJ must have had a fun weekend in Vegas, and he's like, dude, you know what? You should write Star Wars with me. He's like, yeah, dude, I'm in. Like, it's really weird. I love Last Jedi and dislike Dross. That's where I fall. I wouldn't say I dislike The Last Jedi, but it could in a weird way. I don't know. Maybe some weird nostalgic thing will hit me one day and I'll just be like, yeah, I'm all about it or something. I don't know, but it doesn't really it's not one that I love. It's not like a chore to watch it. It's just I feel like it's where the story trajectory that was positive went to die for me. Richie says, hey, Jason, Andrew Stanton, the Pixar guy, has writing credit on the last 2 episodes of Kenobi, correct? Have you heard anything on how he got involved? Will he be writing involved in more Star Wars projects? Yeah, like I don't really know. I don't really know how any of that really goes down, like on that stuff. No idea about the writers. The thing I was told was that Joby Harold, who's getting like teleplay credit. So how it was kind of explained to me one time was most likely what we're having here is probably like parallel thinking at some point in the process of writing the stuff. And so like the first writer comes in, right? And if at the end they have Qui-Gon Jinn and Obi-Wan returning to Tatooine and like, you know, all of these like little things that are the same, then I think like then they are like they contributed. So I think that's why we're seeing so many writers per episode, because you don't need that many writers to write an episode, and then it says teleplay by Joby Harold. So I'm not exactly sure though how that stuff works. But Bespin was telling me that the WGA updated the final episode credit. So is that where you saw that? Aria says, I got to give JJ one credit. The action was pretty right in episode 9. Oh, sure. Yeah, yeah. I mean, like, once again, JJ's a good filmmaker. Like, he knows what he's doing. Just not a good writer, I'm gonna say, but also, yeah, is just didn't really make it very interesting for me. The old Republic, Wade will always be remembered as one of the greatest pilots in the galaxy. Even Mark Hamill hated working for JJ and Johnson. I don't think Mark Hamill hated working for them. Mark Hamill's just sarcastic, and his stuff is able to be taken out of context, and he is not careful with his words. I heard stories. I don't know. I've heard stories about Lucasfilm getting very kind of pissed at Hamill for not being tighter with his interview styles, to say the least. Darren says, I actually want to see the Rise of Skywalker 6 times. I went to see Rise of Skywalker 6 times in the cinema. Laugh out loud. Had to go with me ex, me mates, me mum, and me dad. Oh, sorry, I added the me's. People from work. And I went twice myself also. I thought it was amazing on release, but my opinion changed weeks later when the dust settled. Laugh out loud. Yeah, for me, it was like I went with all my friends, and then and did like went with the kids twice. And then there was this like time when I was like, oh, do I want to go again? And I was like, yeah, I guess I went again, but I kind of like wanted to go. And I was like, man, this is a bad sign. this is a bad sign. There's a lot going on. What are you doing, Rob? You're supposed to have the day off. Is JFK Jr. in the Jedi tomb? That is the most realistic theory we've heard of today. This morning, me and Rob were sending each other, or he was sending me stuff about this like JFK march in Houston or whatever, because he's going to rise today. He's going to return today. So, but thanks for the $2, man. Weirdo. I hope Kenobi ages like the prequels with fans, but faster. Yeah. Also, I mean, I don't know, man. I feel like a lot of people that are having their little things, they're just, being reactionary. And we'll see. I mean, one hand, if you didn't like the prequels, I don't know why you would like anything else. I mean, if you get down to it, people use the prequels often. It's like, well, I like the prequels, therefore my opinion matters. It's like, did you though? Luke Millis, is Acolyte actually bringing back Amazing Sith Legends? Mando, Ahsoka, Andor, and Acolyte are going to be amazing. Yeah, I don't know how true that report was from last week. It seems a little bit like deep information to have about a show that hasn't filmed. It seems like that wouldn't leak in the way that it did without there being better leaks about the show itself. Does that make sense? Like for instance, I got Rogue One was about Jyn Erso and her father, who created the Death Star, and she's going to stop him. I got that before I got Darth Vader was in it, because the whole movie was about that, not about Darth Vader. And this is making it seem like, the other thing. So I'm skeptical, but I would love to be wrong, because that would be fucking metal, right? Neil says, Rob, you are missed, Rob. But anyways, I'm going to go. I went way longer than I meant to go today, because today was supposed to be my day off too. But this doesn't really work or anything. I love doing this. And I'm going to go and get lunch, and then I'm going to try to work on getting my Darth Vader. Hey, Griffin, how's it going? One last one from Griffin, because I haven't seen him in a couple of days. I don't know how true this is, but I heard there's a different writer for part 5 and 6 of Kenobi. Not true. Not true at all. All of it is Joby Harold. You had a bunch of scripts. You had a movie script. You had an adapted movie script into a series, and then Joby Harold take it all and write all of it in one go. And like there's some dialogue punch ups from a writer on one of them, where that person helped out punching up some dialogue and stuff like that, and very, very much very normal, that kind of thing. But no, there's no big shake up there. It's Joby one. Can they do a baby Ned B show with baby Mace Windu? Well, that's what Taika's making. It's called Star Wars Little Tykes from Taika, and that's basically what it's going to be. So, but one last one. It's my last one, I swear. Luke, you're the last one. Luke, if we see Nur again in Kenobi, I really hope it's going to be a cloudy day and we see Mustafar. Yeah, I do think we will see Nur as we get ready to invade Jabim, is my guess. That makes sense, actually. Yeah, I think so. So, anyways, though, everyone have a good weekend. If anything happens, I'll jump on like I just did, and we'll give 5 seconds in memoriam to one of the greatest star pilots of our generation, and then I'll see you guys on Monday.
It's the end of the show.
Come on, let's go. Hey!
It's the end of the show.
Come on, let's go. Hey!
It's the end of the show.
Come on, let's go. Hey!
You know you should go.
Come on, let's go.
It's not about spaceships.